Welcome everyone. This is Rusty, I believe we're ready.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 7:02 p.m. It is Monday, September 17th, 2012. This is a regularly scheduled public meeting of the Newburgh Town Board and is hereby called to order. First item of business is our roll call. Mr. Booth.
Here.
Mr. Woolsey.
Here.
Mr. Piaquadio.
Here.
Mr. Green. Mrs. Green.
Here.
Mr. Bello. Here. Okay, please stand for the pledge of allegiance to the flag and moment of silence. One more, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are two additions. First, we'll make 5A right after the audit, and that is the intergovernmental letter agreement with the City of New York. And the second will be 11B, which will be part-time animal control officer. And that's all I have for the agenda.
Okay, by the way, I see some new faces here tonight. If anyone doesn't know, I'm going to tell you now. Copies of the agenda of this meeting are available in the plastic folder to the right of the entrance. Please help yourself. Okay. Item number 4, this is comments on agenda items. If anybody wants to comment on any item which is on tonight's agenda, this is the time to do it. Now, if anyone wishes to comment on an item which is not on tonight's agenda, you will be afforded ample opportunity to do so later this evening. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on an agenda item at this time? Since it doesn't appear likely, we'll move on to item number 5, which is approval of the audit.
Thank you. I look for a motion to approve this audit for a grand total of $2,471,432.06.
So moved.
The motion was seconded and was made and seconded. Are there any comments? Are there any exceptions? Since there's not, we'll proceed to the vote on the audit. Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Item 5A was an add-on. This is the intergovernment agreement between the town of Newburgh and the city of New York.
Mr. Taylor.
This agreement pertains to the Shaft 5B tunnel project in the city of New York. And the project involves the construction of the replacement tunnel under the Hudson River to Wappingers for the aqueduct. Site is off Newburgh in town, where the city will be digging for the western portion of the tunnel. So the project is unique in both fact that it involves a major construction underground, which most of the construction occurring somewhere beneath the surface, as well as the fact that it involves another municipality. And rather than claiming governmental immunity for its project, which would involve a balancing of the city of New York's interests for the project versus the town's interests in exerting its code and zoning authority. The city voluntarily went through a site plan process with the planning board. So the project at the site one of the requirements of site plan approval, planning board indicated that there should be an intergovernmental agreement that addresses the mitigation measures that were identified in the environmental review process for the project, as well as the applicability of code provisions, including building code provisions, as well as fees, bonds, performance securities. And this letter of agreement was prepared by the city, was reviewed by our office, Mr. Donnelly's office, Mr. Osborne, and Mr. Canfield, as well as the planning board consultants. We are presenting it to town board for your consideration. I'm not sure if there's a representative left to here tonight.
Thank you, Mark. What I'm looking for is authorization to sign this agreement with the city of New York.
I'll make that motion.
All right, discussion on the motion, which has been made and has been seconded.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor or Mr. Osborne?
I wish we had got a little sooner, or last month, hopefully, got a chance to read it.
There is a blasting protocol that is attached to the agreement.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I say there is a blasting protocol that is appended to the agreement. Certainly, if you want to make your approval subject to final sign off by the consultants and other action with the anyone else who wish it's feasible condition to impose.
Is that for the board's pleasure?
Motion and a second already.
I mean, I agree with Mr. Woolsey, that, there was not ample time to read everything. And, voting on this is voting in, what's the word I'm looking for? Blind, but also in, relying on the employees we have working for us.
Mostly Mr. Taylor.
Can I ask Councilman Pequadio, would you like to withdraw your motion and resubmit it as amended, as suggested by Mr. Taylor? You can do that if you wish.
That's what I'll do.
Okay, does Mr. Bello go along with the second? Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, Mr. Woolsey.
Yes.
Mr. Piaquardi.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Bello. Mr. Booth.
Yes.
Okay, item number 6, this is a public hearing. This is the local law superseding the tax levy cap.
Mr. Dresky has all the proper mailings and notifications.
Notice of this hearing has been posted since September 11th. There was ad in the Sentinel on September 11th and ad in Mid-Hudson Times on September 12th. That fulfills all the requirements in New York state law in order to conduct a public hearing.
Thank you. With that, I look for a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Woolsey.
Yes.
Mr. Piaquardi.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Bello.
Yes.
Mr. Booth.
Yes.
The hearing is thereby open at 7:13 p.m.
As most people know, year before last, the New York State enacted a tax levy cap on municipal governments and including towns, school districts. We did this last year. Our reason for doing it last year and this year is the fact that in case there is an interpretation difference between the taxation department who broke the law versus the controller's office who interprets the law, we won't be found that we have a violation of this just because of a translation or a definement by one of the two departments. Mark, would you like to? I'm doing this at the recommendation of our accountant, Jackie Clarko. At this time, I'll open it up to them board if they have any questions or comments.
I think it's something that we need to do to protect the taxpayers, because we don't know how both bodies are going to interpret it. I have seen it many times where Department A says the actual opposite of Department B. So I think for our own town protection, this is something that we need to do.
Thank you, Betty. And just matter of fact, even though we passed it last year, we did stay underneath the cap, and that is our intentions for the 2013 budget. So this time I'll open up to the floor if anybody has any questions or comments on this local law. Okay, thank you. And any closing remarks from board members? With that, we'll look for a motion to approve the resolution of the town board.
Or do we need to close the public hearing?
Oh, yes,
first?
sure.
All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to close the public hearing at 7:15 p.m. Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes. Mark, the motion now would be the local law approval.
Yeah, there was a resolution of adoption of the ordinance in the clerk's office, so it's in your package now.
Oh, then I look for a motion to approve the resolution of adoption for local law to override tax levy limit established by the municipal law, Article 3C.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Yes.
That was a soft yes. Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're up to item number 7 on the agenda, presentation, Conklin Services and Dominion Energy Group, solar power installation.
Gentlemen.
Council, good evening. My name is Joe Capuccio, and John Scandura and Mark Witham. We are part of Conklin Services and Construction that has been in the city of Newburgh since 1932. Dominion Energy Group is an affiliate of Conklin Services. Dominion is a solar energy, alternative energy company. We've had the good fortune of meeting with both Messrs. Booth and Osborne last week. And our proposition is relatively simple, and I will try to keep it streamlined. We've done a preliminary feasibility study on several buildings that have been identified by Messrs. Booth and Osborne. And thus far, we've identified 3 locations, 3 municipal buildings, where through working with the state of New York and certain grants that are available in the upstate area, we are able to offer ostensibly, or actually, a free solar system, a free 50,000 kilowatt hour system on each of these locations, of which we've identified 3 thus far. We are very much a Newburgh company. We are dedicated to working with the community, both commercial and the public interest as well. And there really are 3 E's to the proposal. Number 1, we briefly analyze the invoices for your electricity charges. And what we do is we come in and we will save the government approximately 30 to 35% off their current rates for what is generated through solar energy. We also fix that rate. So for a term of 15 years, there's absolutely no inflation. So it truly is a win-win paradigm. We're coming in and fixing a rate, so you're taking a variable cost. You're using ostensibly an underutilized or non-utilized asset in the form of roofs and turning that into something that's economically viable, economically beneficial to the tune of at least 30% off of your current rates, and again, fixed in for a 15-year period without inflation. Number two, clearly the environmental benefits, which would be the second to E. So with the use of the solar energy that you'll be generating, which you have on this building now to a smaller degree, the systems on each of the buildings we're proposing are approximately 10 to 12 times larger than what you have here. So these are relatively meaningful systems and will make a positive environmental impact. So we would actually be able to show you how many cars you'd be taking off the road, how many trees you'd be saving, and your reduction in greenhouse emissions as well. So that would be the second E. The third E is education. So we would propose to have what I call generically a kiosk. So if you wanted to have school children come in, or the public generally, to show that the town of Newburgh is committed to making a change and really helping the environment while also improving the bottom line. So the bottom line of the bottom line is that we would endeavor to do everything turnkey fashion, working with us, a company that's been around since 1932. Literally from the initial feasibility study, which we've done, again with Mr. Osborne and Mr. Booth's assistance, to structural engineering on the facility buildings, to the installation, to the ongoing maintenance contract, which lasts the entire duration of the 15 years. Thereafter, the building, the system would be turned over to ownership of the municipality or the appropriate government entity. And we also provide all the warranty and maintenance work on a go-forward basis. So there truly is no out-of-pocket cost, just again, I think a very significant economic benefit, an environmental benefit, and obviously opportunity for educational exploitation, if you will, in terms of using that to teach, educate, and I think all three of those are equally viable and positive reasons to consider. Thank you very much.
Mr. Osborne, what three buildings?
Based on a review of Central Hudson buildings, the three buildings that have been identified are the Chadwick Lake Filter Plant, the Public Services Building, and the Police Headquarters.
One thing that wasn't discussed was compared to our present kilowatt per hour, what kind of rate are we talking about?
Well, we've not had the benefit of looking at an actual utility bill. We've seen some compilation information. And remember, there are two parts, not remember, but if I may, there are two parts to the electric bill. There's supply and there's delivery. We looked at a blended rate on the information that was forwarded over. You were anywhere between 12 and 15 cents a kilowatt hour, inclusive of delivery and supply. And we would be significantly below that, and we'd be able to articulate the precise number once we were given the actual utility bill. And again, the other point that's significant is there is no inflation. So next year you'll be paying X, the year after that you'll be paying X. There's no escalator, there's no adjustment. And in the 32 years, the statistics we show annual utility inflation of about 5%. So if we were to show you what that savings would be over a 15-year period, given the rate of inflation, the time value of money, et cetera, it's rather staggering. Thereafter 15 years, the life of the system is 25 to 30. So after 15 years, you're generating absolutely free power. And again, the system life is about 25 to 30 years.
Any questions?
Yeah, you say that it's a 50,000 watt solar array?
Yes, sir. Under the NYSERDA program, there was a recent amendment to make it much more municipality friendly, government friendly. So it went from 25,000 kilowatt hours per meter, per viable meter, up to 50,000 kilowatt hours per viable meter. So that is a significant change, and something that I think we should all have the opportunity to take advantage of in plain English.
So the question would be, if you have a 50,000 kilowatt solar array, you're talking roughly 200 solar panels.
Exactly right. About
That's going to
200.
fit on top of any one of our buildings, or are they going to be remote monitored?
The second part of your question, sir?
Are they, where are they going to fit? Are they going to fit on top of the buildings that you've mentioned? Or are they going to installed on your panel rack?
Well, there are two options. Again, we've done the initial feasibility study, and it would appear that we can use the surface of the roof surface that's available, roughly 3,500 square feet for the 50 kW system. If not, the options would be to do some type of quasi-solar farm, again, which is very aesthetically pleasing, in an adjacent field or something like that. But we would have the exact sketch for you before we move forward for approval, of course.
Has a load study been done on the buildings to make sure that the buildings are engineered and conform?
That would be, it's a great question. That's part of the initial feasibility study where we would be using a local structural engineer to do the report. Considering,
Question I have is,
yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What other municipalities have you done locally?
We have not, through our partnership, we're actually SES Dominion, and the SES part of our company has done significant work with municipalities. They've actually installed the solar up at the NYSERDA headquarters in Albany. So we have, I think, a very pleasing resume, or a CV that would pass peer review. I'd be pleased to share that with you if you so require.
I'm concerned about the weight
Yes, ma'am.
for installing something like that, as to what we would have to do. Say if you chose on the roof,
Yes,
as
ma'am.
to what kind of structural change we would have to make to our buildings to compensate for that kind of weight.
No, that's a great question, but what it comes down to is it depends on the type of roof. So if we're looking at a flat roof, we're really looking at only 2 or 3 pounds per panel that are going on the roof. If we were looking at doing something where you're actually attaching to the roof, it's even less than that in terms of weight. In consideration of the average snowfall and the snow load that occurs on the roof, what I can tell you empirically is all the buildings that we've analyzed here and have done to date, we've not encountered a weight issue. But I can further assure you, before a panel or a screw is put into the roof or near the roof, we'll have a qualified structural engineer do the inspection, the weight analysis, and share that with you, and overlay what the weight of the particular system that we've designed for each of the respective roofs would come to bear. So we would analyze the type of racking system and the number of panels, as you pointed out, roughly 200, and we would do a weight analysis, have that done for us. Not only a weight analysis, but a wind tolerance. So we would basically make sure that these things would stand up to at least 120 mile per hour winds, as well as the weight. So those would both go into the report and the analysis.
My other question would be, heaven forbid, we never want to have a fire in any of our buildings. Have you discussed any of this with any of the local fire departments as far as fighting a fire or anything of that nature?
Absolutely, ma'am. First of all, we'd love to work with the local fire departments, and I know that at Cruise Conklin we've made several inquiries of that because there's precedent for solar going on other station houses throughout the tri-state area. Number one. Number two, in the system layout, we make sure that there's ingress and egress points, so there is sufficient space to, God forbid, if there is a problem like that, they're not hampered by the logistical layout of the panel system. So those issues are all taken into consideration when the system is designed. Yes, ma'am.
And you would provide that kind of information to us so that we could also look at it? Because I neither want a fireman going through it, nor having some of the other problems that I could see with this kind of structure on our roof.
Yes. And in fact, I would encourage any active involvement. We would love to have that reviewed and work with them locally. I think that would be a great concept, frankly. And the last thing I'd like to say is that they are warranted and insured throughout the duration. And it's a simple agreement, and it's called a power purchase agreement. So we would ask you to sign a 15-year power purchase agreement, and you would effectively buy the power that is generated off the system from us as a power supplier. And that would, of course, reduce the power bill that you would pay to the local utility that you currently have. So I believe essential purpose.
So we would actually pay your company 35% less than what we pay the power company right now.
Yeah, we would articulate that precisely based on the utility bill, so there would be no question, and I don't have to say just a nebulous 30%. We would try to show you precisely what the cost savings would be, locked in, and we would even extrapolate and show you what the real savings would be over the entire 15-year period, and then thereafter for the entire useful life of the system.
So you mentioned a grant. What would that grant, how much would it be, and what's it paying for?
Right. Well, the grant is through NYSERDA, the State Energy Research Development Authority. And as I mentioned earlier, they just recently increased the size of the grant measured by kilowatt hours. And I can speak in concept because we don't know how much the cost of the system would actually be until we see how we need to install it, of course. But the grant would be about $65,000 or $70,000 and help defer our cost of installation. And the company, and in terms of transparency, we of course would receive the benefit of the grant to defray the cost of the installation of the free system. And then of course what we continue through the purchase of power generated through the system.
I thought in the beginning you said the grant would cover it all. Now, you seem to say something different.
No, sir, I said the part of the NYSERDA grant, there's also a federal grant that comes into play as well. It's called the 1603 grant. And last year, we as a company made a significant investment in panels, in solar panels. And we were able to, without getting overly technical, to safe harbor these panels. So even though under the Obama administration, this grant program called 1603 expired on December 31st of 2011, because we made this investment in panels last year, we're able to go forward and offer, and also take advantage of the federal grant. So in conjunction with the federal grant and the NYSERDA grant, we're basically able to defray the costs, our costs of installation, and offer the free system. So it's a combination of NYSERDA and the federal grants.
Now, upon installation, if something does happen to one of our roads, who takes care of that?
Well, the respective entity, whatever the government entity is in play here, in question, would be part of our insurance coverage, and it would be named as an additional insured under separate certificate of insurance, which is what we do for similarly situated commercial clients. So we have a $25 million liability cap. So property damage, personal injury, et cetera, would be covered under our, obviously subject to fact finding, but would be covered under our insurance policy. That's part of the power purchase agreement.
Okay.
All right, Jim?
So, what would be the next step without a commitment on the town board's part?
Sure. The next step would really be a physical inspection of the building, starting with some of the questions that Councilwoman had earlier with respect to weight bearing and what they call a shade analysis. So we would bring out one of our engineers and do what they call a shade analysis. It's a computerized system to make sure that the sun levels and the angles of the building and the exposure to and so forth are appropriate for the system, first of all. And that's basically step one. Step two would be sharing the power purchase agreement, of course, in terms of its content, which I think we've attempted to forward a copy over. And then step three would be finalizing the price, which I think, again, we would need to final utility bills and inspection of the building to determine the complexities, if any, in terms of the cost of installation. And then we would be prepared to move forward. We would want to see the building, make sure it's real in terms of feasibility, and then obviously present the dispositive price per kilowatt hour, show you what the savings is in terms of dollars and cents. I think that's more meat and potatoes than saying 30% less.
So if we were to share the Central Hudson bills with you, that would address the issue of what the actual charges would be. And if we were to allow access to our buildings, we would undertake a structural inspection and the sun shade inspection. That would be at your risk at this point to undertake those preliminary analyses.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Are you looking, go ahead.
Your roughly 50 kW would provide roughly 200 amps. So what you're saying is you are going to actually eliminate the Central Hudson utility or near eliminate it?
So the answer to that question is contingent on how much you're using at each of the metered locations. So if you have a building that's using 50,000 kilowatt hours, you could effectively almost come off the grid. There might be some de minimis charges, whatever they may be. And I'll point out to the council that in your Central Hudson bill, there is a line item that funds the very program at NYSERDA that I'm just speaking to you about this evening. As is every user of Central Hudson is paying that same contribution, if you will. So if you go home and look at your utility bill, you'll see a line item. And that line item is actually funding source from that NYSERDA grant program.
Most of us don't really want to look at it.
I don't
But if, in other words,
But if you did, pay close attention to that, sir.
if we're still connected to a power company,
Yes.
if the solar system went down for whatever reason, at least we have another source of
Well, again,
Less than it's worth.
yes, of course, always. The reciprocal to that is, if there is, and I want to be very clear about this, if there is a grid shutdown, if the utility goes down for whatever reason, these inverters that convert DC, it's very simple, right? I wish it could be more complicated, but you're taking sunlight into, I'm sorry, you're taking sunlight that's DC and converting it into AC power through these inverters. And if the utility goes down, there's a drain in the inverter that shuts it off. Same like here, we looked at the inverter that was here. So even though the sun is out, even though you can be producing power photovoltaically, if the grid is out, we shut down. The only way to overcome that is with a battery system, which we're not here to speak of this evening, but yeah, there's always that backup draw. So if something happens in the panels, I don't know what that would be, but yes, you always have, you're not interrupted, unless of course something else goes down and has an interruption.
These panels aren't gonna be, micro inverter panels,
No, sir.
you're gonna have large inverters.
Yes, sir. For each 50K system, we're looking at about 6 of the inverters that you have in this building currently, to be very honest. I've tried to be very honest all night, but to be particularly honest with regard to that question, microinverters we cannot economically afford to do. The price point on those inverters is just beyond what we can afford to offer when we're packaging a free system. It's as simple as that. And there's also some other issues with it that we're not quite comfortable with, but yes, we'd be using 6 standalone inverters, and the concept is there, rather than using one large 50,000 kilowatt hour inverter. If that went down, then you're out of business until we can get that service. If one string goes down on the inverter, sir, at least the other 5 or 6. And that's been our thesis and our sort of engineering design. So you'll have 6 or 7 separate inverters per system.
And you'll be using a net metering system, or Central Hudson will be buying back from you? or-
Well, it's unlikely that we would get to that scenario again. I need to look at the invoices themselves. But the regulations under my service, say you're using 50,000 kilowatt hours at meter X, we're able to actually build a system that is 110% of last year's usage. So in that case, you'd be able to build a system that's 55,000 kilowatt hours. So again, so that answer is contingent upon our final analysis of the utility bills. And we'd be glad to show that to you.
Now suppose a building only uses, say, 25,000 kilowatt hours.
Well, we can certainly address those, and for the town, we will. The thing we would ask in return is we need to, by September 30th, identify all our projects to the federal government. And we need to identify them not by name, but simply by system size. So as a business, obviously, we'd like to understand precisely the size rather than over allocating and effectively wasting what we would consider a tremendously valuable resource. And hopefully you'll see this all around town, because we're working with a number of the local businesses.
So in essence, you're telling us that you'd have to be moving forward with our somewhat approval by September 30th?
Yeah, that would be the ideal scenario, frankly. Because of being the town and extending constraints and so forth, we can work on a perhaps a little less concrete basis, just to get a feel. But honestly, ideally, that would be the scenario we'd love to operate and proceed under this now. But our understanding of time constraints, et cetera. I heard your presentation earlier, I understand.
And our utility bills would be just to you. We're not gonna get any more.
No, sir, you'd absolutely still get one from Central Hudson, for whatever you're using above and beyond what we're generating.
I think the understanding is that, on a lot more weather day, and when those solar panels aren't producing, Central Hudson's gonna be more in the game
Yes, sir.
Then you get
than the solar PV system.
A lot better than I can say. And frankly, it's exactly, I assume exactly the scenario here where you're probably using, I don't know, let's guess 40,000 kilowatt hours a year here and you're producing 5. It's the exact same protocol at play that you would most likely have at the other river. Our ideal scenario, honestly, is to try to find and identify these buildings and take the municipality as close to being independent as it possibly can. That's the ideal objective, that's what we're looking to do. But I don't know until we see the utility bills. So.
And actually, then there's no way of conserving, or not conserving, but storing any excess. It'll all go back to the grid.
Good question, sir. To answer it, let me answer it this way. It's like a bank account. So when you're generating, and you're generating more than you're using, say it's a Sunday and the building is closed, sun's coming out on Sunday, right? Everyone's in church and the sun is out and it's generating power. What it's doing is it's turning your meter backward. So you're getting a credit at Central Hudson. So then on Monday morning, bright and early, when you turn on the lights, you're not racking up or registering a bill with Central Hudson. You use what's been bankless for over the weekend. It's a very simplistic example, and I hope you don't mind, but it's like kind of banking sun credits, banking energy credits with Central Hudson. And then when you draw it down, it of course reverses. Does that make sense?
Unfortunately, yeah, it makes sense, but unfortunately, we don't get to see what's going back and reversing that.
Yes, you do, sir. There's a separate meter. There'll be two meters. There'll be the Central Hudson meter, and there'll be the meter that's approved by us. And approved by Hudson, you will absolutely see what you produce and what is generated back to what we call back to the grid.
So as Central Hudson's going in reverse, their meter's going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly right. Not only that, you'll be able to remotely access it. We'll have a kiosk in the building if you like, and it'll show you what you've produced and put back to the grid. And anyone can access that remotely on their own laptop or computer from their home. It's that sophisticated, but it's simple.
You know, I said one more thing, but it's another one. So that meter, that's your meter, we're gonna pay you 35% less than you normally would pay a power company. Is that what we're really talking about here?
It's not technically on meter, it's on
Well,
Central
I
Hudson.
know.
Yes, it'll be a separate meter that registers and, yes, precisely. Yes.
Now, Central Hudson comes in, for some commercial, they read once a month, for residentials, they read every 2 months. How is this read and how is it billed?
How would you like it? We'll do it quarterly if you like. And frankly, we don't even need to come out and read it. We'll all be looking at the same data on the computer
On
screen.
the computer screen, okay.
Very simple.
Is it bid items too?
Uh,
I think it's one, if you're talking about these solar arrays on roofs and this action moving to that, obviously, conducting a review and assessment of your seeker, talking about technical filter filters and before taking any action. Secondly, I note that the agreement provides for agreement to convey easement rights with respect to. The agreement was presented provides for conveyance of the agreement to convey easement rights with respect to access. Obviously, as a municipality, we are subject to various restrictions on conveyance of municipal property, and it's like we have to strike that
Yes, sir.
from the agreement.
Very valid point, Mr. Taylor. That was a general template for a commercial client, and it would certainly be redacted to accommodate the needs of the municipality.
With respect to access rights themselves, talking about the police station, filter plants, maybe some homeland security concerns that the town may have with respect to who they're allowing on the roofs, what they're allowed to do, and whether they need access actually inside the buildings or not. And those are all things that we have to, the town will have to consider in its review of the agreement.
I can't tell you there would be Conklin employees, because Conklin now has police training solely on that. And I don't know what sort of access a company like that would have to repair a roof or to remove a tear. But for what it's worth, it would be local employees. And again, sir, I don't know the protocols as to who we do with the reasonable complying. So,
I note that there's a provision for an option to purchase or removal at the end of the term. Aside from our ability to enforce, there's no security offered to the town with respect to ensuring the removal of facilities after the end of the term. And just raising that with the board. No one's concerned, with antennas on property, we typically require a removal bond. And I don't know whether the board would have concern with respect to reserve some rights of assignment in the contract. Just wondering whether in the past you have made assignments to other entities.
No, sir, since we, on a commercial basis, we do provide the financing, so that gives us the flexibility to create an instrument down the road. In this case, yes, sir. In this case, it would have no applicability, and we'd be glad to strike it again. It was done in the interest of time, and all your points are in fact valid. My question would be in terms of how you went about doing the roof here, you know, how that bond worked, what the paradigm for this installation was. We certainly try to mirror and try to comply with, of course.
This was under a NYSERDA grant through Orange County, in which we purchased and owned the system up there. So the grant paid for the purchase and installation, and right now, whenever electricity is being generated, we're getting full credit for it.
Of course.
So it was a different grant for it.
I was just thinking in terms of the bonding and removal and all these different things. Well, we can certainly, as an alternative, define fair market value if you'd like to do that as an alternative. We can certainly address that.
In some instances where the town has leased space, for example, on its water tower, elsewhere, telecommunications facilities, it has in fact required security for the removal of those facilities. We're talking about a different type of arrangement here, but again, the town may have the same concerns should it decide that it doesn't want to facilities continue on the roof at the end of the day. And I don't know how to address that if it's not with roof security.
Well, we can certainly contract to that, but I certainly know that I don't understand the workings of this if the council's only
Well,
certainly
there
saying.
would be an expense to maintain the roof.
I assume there would be an expense.
So that's the issue.
Yeah, the corollary to that, of course, is at the end of 15 years, and we could.
I agree with you, Mr. Wiltie. I think this needs discussion as a board as to what direction we're going to go in. I know I would want to have input from you gentlemen before reaching a decision.
Mark, is this an item that has to be bid?
I don't believe so. It's not, to the extent we could go out and bid or purchase power. It's an unusual creature. I don't know opinions that are rendered in that regard by the comptroller's office with respect to the applicability of general municipal law. I suspect it's so new, esoteric, that it doesn't fall within there, and I don't know what sort of amounts we're actually talking about as far as whether we're under the limits, so the amount of power we're purchasing. I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I suspect not.
When's our next workshop?
October 10th.
October 10th.
This is just what last week.
Now, we were looking, I was looking to very soon, I just wanted to, this first opportunity to bring it to the board.
Would it make sense to provide Dominion with the Central Hudson bills and prepare their cost analysis, which they said is at their own risk anyway? Then that would allow them to bring a firmer number back to the board so that you would have a dollar figure to be talking about, and then that might help you weigh your risk benefit.
I think we'd definitely like to see that.
I mean, I have no problem even allowing them to look at the three bill
far as I
Without-
know.
Yeah, oh, yeah, but I'm not to disrupt any of the workings.
Oh, yeah, correct.
We'll get, Mr. Osborne, we'll talk to our accountant, we'll get the current bills to them.
I'm away 2 days this week, so,
Say again, please.
I'm away 2 days this week, so,
Cut that out.
yeah,
I've already never signed it.
it's work really. But we can get the bills to you hopefully by the end of the week and maybe arrange some inspections of the buildings.
And I assure you it'll be non-intrusive and we'll be in and out quickly. So we'll do that. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there any more comments on this topic, or maybe we move on?
Can we move on?
Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 8, introduction of local law for adult-oriented businesses.
Mr. Taylor?
Now they're too much suppliers, either Germany, they're in China.
Last meeting,
Jews, different
or adopted the resolution regarding.
We can't do that because we give them from a
the
third-party supplier.
operation
So it's our,
adult-oriented
to distribute it like it's to us,
businesses.
and it is very expensive.
Preliminary.
Frank with you, I wish I could, but that's one of the recommendations. Yeah, for the US way.
And
Yeah,
also
okay, thank you. Yep.
our office to proceed and drafting the proposed local law. And we've done so. It's just delivered to you this afternoon. Mr. Scully and I, so we've been working on it to this point. And the board will indulge us, Mr. Scully will review the local law, which is been submitted to you. And obviously, in the context that we repeatedly tell you, concerns with respect to constitutionally protected rights.
Excuse me, Mark, it's a little difficult to hear you. Can you just use the microphone?
It's my
Great.
apologies.
Thank you.
So, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Scully. I'm sure we'll reemphasize the fact that there are constitutional rights concerning the enactment of any this sort of local law.
Thank you. Mr. Scully?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Mr. Taylor. The proposed local law would be an amendment to the zoning portion of the town code. The town of Newburgh has the authority to regulate the time, the location, and the manner within reason of the operation of adult-oriented businesses. The town does not have the authority to regulate the content, in other words, what is expressed, what is presented, what is said in an adult business. So care has been taken in drafting the local law to ensure that only the manner and the location within reason of the operation of adult-oriented businesses is regulated. The proposed local law would add definitions for a number of items. Most importantly, what is an adult-oriented business? An adult-oriented business is defined as any type of an establishment that offers adult materials or adult entertainment to the public. Adult materials and adult entertainment are those that are characterized or emphasized by the depictions of nudity or certain specified sexual activities or certain specified anatomical areas. And those are more further defined within the law themselves, but as opposed to reading everything, I just want to give you a broad overview of what the law does. If a business is considered an adult-oriented business underneath the proposed local law, there are restrictions as to where such a business can be located. First, the business would have to be located within only certain specified zoning districts within the town. Those districts being the B, the IB, and the B districts. I'm sorry, if I misspoke.
It's the I being perfect.
The I, the IB, or the B districts. Apologize for misspeaking. Additionally, in addition to requiring that they be located within only those districts, there are certain separation requirements. In other words, each adult business must be separated from certain other sites within the town by certain specified distances. And there's two distance requirements in the proposed local law. First, an adult-oriented business must be at least 1,000 feet separated from the boundary line of a residential district, as well as sensitive sites. And sensitive sites is also defined in the proposed local law. Sensitive sites are schools, public parks, places of worship, recreational facilities, all of which must have existed as of September 15, 2012. So in other words, the adult use, the adult entertainment business, the adult-oriented business must be at least 1,000 feet away from the boundary of a residential district, as well as those sensitive sites which I just discussed. Now, the second separation requirement has to do with the location of an adult-oriented business as related to another adult-oriented business. There must be, under the proposed local law, at least 500 feet separation between adult-oriented businesses. Now, the town's planner has provided these separation requirements, and by the planner's calculation, under the proposed local law, approximately 41% of the area of the town that is open to commercial establishments would be available for adult-oriented businesses to locate. And this is absolutely critical because, as Mr. Taylor said in introduction, the town is not regulating and may not constitutionally regulate the expression and the content of the expression offered by adult-oriented businesses or taken in, purchased, or viewed by patrons of adult-oriented businesses. And so the town is required to have open to adult-oriented businesses ample avenues in which, or in other words, sites in which adult-oriented communications, adult materials, and adult entertainments can be offered and viewed. Even if the town were to propose a law that has nothing to do with the content of adult-oriented businesses' expressions, if that law were not to allow any sites or locations within the town in which adult-oriented businesses could operate, that law would not pass constitutional muster. And so in order to ensure that there are ample avenues for this communication, there are, and again, as I said before, approximately 41% of the commercial areas of the town open to these types of expressions and materials. A second major portion of the proposed local law requires that any adult-oriented business located in the town of Newburgh that does not meet with the locational requirements or the separation requirements must cease operating within 2 years of the effective date of the local law. This type of provision has been found constitutional both in New York and nationally, provided that a reasonable amount of time is afforded to an adult-oriented business to amortize the cost and the outlays, capital outlays that are made in establishing that business. As a subsection of this termination provision, the local law would also allow an adult-oriented business to apply for an extension of that 2-year deadline. The application would be made to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it would be incumbent upon the adult-oriented business to demonstrate the investment that has been made and that there is a need for additional time beyond the 2-year period to recoup that investment. If that showing is made, then the Zoning Board of Appeals would have the authority to extend out that termination deadline so there is a sufficient period of time in which the adult-oriented business could recoup its capital outlay. The town, in drafting this local law, as Mr. Taylor said when we started this section of the presentation, is not intending to regulate the content of adult-oriented expression. The town does not have that authority, and that's not the purpose of this proposed local law. And in order to ensure that there are sufficient avenues in which adult-oriented expression can occur, The town considered but rejected a number of different options in regulation. The town considered including in separation requirements additional sensitive sites such as cemeteries or establishments that serve alcoholic beverages, but rejected those as the determination was made that that would not leave sufficient areas of the town open for adult-oriented businesses to locate. There were several other options considered. The town considered implementing a prohibition on nudity in live entertainment offered by adult-oriented businesses. But this was also rejected as such a restriction was felt would impose an unjustified burden on the actual content of the expression offered by an adult-oriented establishment. The town also rejected any type of licensing scheme. Licensing scheme would have been a requirement that an adult-oriented business apply to the town for permission to present the type of adult materials or adult entertainment that are regulated only by location and manner in this law. That type of licensing scheme carries a very heavy presumption of unconstitutionality. Very difficult to impose that type of licensing scheme without unconstitutionally burdening the free expression activities that are protected under the First Amendment of the Federal Constitution and under the New York Constitution. So that was also rejected. The board also considered but declined to dedicate additional police resources to enforcing criminal provisions and public nuisance laws that are directed at the negative secondary effects that the board has determined are associated with adult-oriented businesses. This was decided against both for budgetary limitations, but also and predominantly because of the concern that doing so might chill the free speech rights of law-abiding business, adult-oriented businesses and their patrons. The idea here being that if there were increased enforcement, adult-oriented or potential owners of adult-oriented businesses or patrons of adult-oriented businesses might decide not to engage in that expressive activity simply out of fear of the enforcement aspect. So the board rejected that as well. What the board settled on was the proposed local law that is being offered tonight, which leaves open ample alternative avenues for communication of the adult messages and content offered by adult businesses, as well as is the least intrusive method of regulating the location and the manner of operation, but not the free speech content of adult-oriented businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And with that, Mr. Taylor has three motions to be entertained.
Yes, there's a resolution to start the secret process with respect to the adoption of this local law, which is considered a type 1 action seeker. There is also a resolution which would introduce the local law and schedule a public hearing. I understand that with the introduction, there still is a period of time for the local law to be massaged, revised by the board. It has to be a final form, 7 days. You got to use a shorthand for the public hearing, so there is a period of time, depending on when you schedule the public hearing, to actually review, consider, and make modifications to the local laws introduced or discuss the final form. And thirdly, there's a resolution which would refer the local law to the Department of Planning, the Town Planning Board, and the zoning board.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. With that, I first look for a resolution of the town board to determine that the proposed local law amending chapter 185, title zoning code of the town of Newburgh, providing for regulation of adult-oriented business in a type 1 action for review or seeker.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, and a second.
Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes. Second motion to approve the resolution of the town board introducing the local law amending chapter 185 entitled zoning and code of the town of Newburgh to provide for the regulation of adult market business and calling for a public hearing, and my suggested date and time would be October 15th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
yes,
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes. And finally, the resolution of the town board providing for the referral of the local law amending chapter 185 entitled zoning and the code of the town of Newburgh to provide for the regulation of local business. Stated by Mr. Taylor, this is due to the county planning, our zoning, and planning board.
so moved.
Any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay, item number 9, Assessor's Office. This is a series of certiorari settlements. There are 7 of them. A, American Tower, Section 1, Block 1, Lot 37, located on Orchard Drive.
If anybody's gone by, on 300 by Orchard Drive, and for years it's been that tower, it's the same tower, different use. This would be for reduction, no reduction in 2007, for the reduction in assessed value of 2008, $48,073, 2009, $36,600. 2010, $16,000, and 2011, $10,220. This is the total refund liability for the town of $1,230.57.
Have a motion.
Any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
yes,
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
9B, Land Investment Group, Section 34, Block 2, Lot 98, located on New Road.
Right, this is the building that houses Hobart, formerly, well, back a few years, the old Honda shop,
yes,
when it was originally built. And the settlement provides for reduction of 2009, amount of $32,073, 2010, $12,978, and no reductions for 2011. The total tax liability for the town is $484.88.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Okay, 9C, Corbell LLC and/or Con Finance. Section 60, Block 3, Lot 29, located on Route 300.
Yes, this is located in the town center, adjacent to the shopping stop. This is the standalone building. Formerly, I believe, with AT&T, and there's also a movie rental. This settlement has no reduction for assessed value in 2007, 2009, 2010, 2011. It does have an assessed value reduction for 2008 of $90,300 for the total town liability of $968.92.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Okay, 9D, A&A Food Systems, Section 60, Block 3, Lot 54, also located on Route 300.
This is the Perkins Pancake House. And this settlement has an assessed value reduction for 2010 to 11, amount of $168,900, and 2012, $140,775. The total tax liability of $3,868.64.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Okay, item 9E, 17K Property Group, LLC, Section 89, Block 1, Lot 28, located at 261 Route 17K.
This is directly from Lockhart Road. This is the prior Connecticut General Building. Since they're leaving, it's been many things, partially filled at times. It's actually the biggest liability. It's a reduction from 2009 through 2012 of $440,000 in assessment, with a total tax liability of $15,045.76.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
9F, Segali, Section 90, Block 1, Lot 2, located at southwest corner of 17K and Arbor Drive.
This is, I believe, was the old model house for Schoonmaker. This is on the southwest side of Arbor Drive. And we have assessed, reduction of assessed value of 2009 to $73,694 for a total tax liability of $832.01.
So moved.
Any discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
9G, this is the final one, Carroll Corporation, Section 95, Block 1, Lot 23, located on 17K.
This is the 17K Burger King. The proposed settlement for 2008, reduction in assessment of $196,000, 2009, $180,400, and 2010, $131,400. And 2011, 2012, $97,800. For a total tax liability of $6,779.84.
Motion.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Bello? Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Item number 10, we're now on the Department of Public Works. 10A, interfund transfer for water distribution and water supply.
Yes, Mr. Osborne has requested the transfer, budget transfer, interfund transfers, amount of $100,000 to account part of the amount of $47,400 to account 8340,499. This is for, to cover the cost of meter replacements, which we are in the process of updating to new technology. And the second is the amount of $52,600 to consultants, which is to fund the cost of the water chemistry analysis and treatment optimization study. Correct, Mr. Osborne?
Correct.
Look for motion to approve as presented.
Is there a motion, please?
So,
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Mr. Woolsey,
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio,
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Gallo,
Yes.
Mr. Booth.
Yes.
10B, we're still in Department of Public Works, bid advertising for loader backhoe.
Yes, Mr. Benedict has requested that we authorize him to put a bid out for the backhoe, which was approved for his 2012 budget. Documents are attached with specs included. Mr. Woolsey, does this speak to your satisfaction?
No,
Okay.
because, when I talked to Darrell, I want to make sure, so, I also wanted him, and I didn't ask him, because I didn't like the answer I got. I'd like him to sit down with a forward and go over this.
Okay, so he hasn't said no.
I don't know. You know, Jim has a complication, and I don't want Jimmy just to rubber stamp it.
Okay.
Because what we're finding, we're buying equipment, we can't get parts for 10 years. I mean, when we gotta go all the way to Europe to buy something, things are bad. So I'll approve it under those stipulations.
That's reviewed and approved by Mr.
well,
Fuller.
maybe we should table it.
We could just change
We
it.
could table to, we could just, I would table it, we haven't made a motion on it, so take it to October 1st meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Item 10C is budget transfers for highway department.
Yes, Mr. Benedict is requesting this transfer with the backing of our town accountant and our personnel director. We're looking for the amount of $60,000 to be transferred from our street paving and resurfacing to our, and $60,000 from our sand, salt, and calcium to accounts 9060 for our medical, and the amount of $80,000 for our medical and workers' comp, for the covers, in the amount of $40,000 to our workers' comp cover shortage in those accounts. We have a large amount of workers' comp. Sure.
Table the transfer to them.
Yeah, we can,
Let's table it.
okay.
I agree.
Okay, so that is also postponed until October 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We now move on to number 11, animal control. A is a T94 withdrawal.
Yes, a request from Chanel Height, our animal control officer, to authorize the payment of the T94 in the amount of $1,077.48.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Woolsey?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Bello? Yes. Mr. Booth?
Yes.
11B, this was an add, part-time animal control officer.
Yes, one of our part-time animal control officers is only able to schedule herself for 1 day a week, leaving excess hours, and I'm looking for authorization to allow Chief Clancy and Chantal Hay to interview for another part-time animal control officer.
I'll make the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
just
Okay.
that, this would be just to fill the unused desk.
Okay. Mr. Wiltie?
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Mello? Yes. Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Okay, we now have item number 12, which is announcements. Does any member of the board have any announcements to share with us this evening?
Just that this is our last meeting of the summer schedule. We'll go back to in October for the regular meeting schedule.
Who was the summer schedule?
Yeah, very good.
Don't bother changing it next year.
Okay, anything else from any board members? I have a couple of announcements, if no one minds. On Saturday, September 29th, which is a week from this coming Saturday, my office will be open from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. This is for the benefit of people who can't come in during the week. So if you have any friends or relatives, or you know anyone who wants to do business in town hall but can't come in during the week, this is a chance to do so. Fall is a beautiful time for weddings. It's a good chance to get your marriage license. The doe permits that allow you to shoot, to hunt doe will be expiring on October 1st, so this is your last chance to get them if you're a hunter. And it's a good time to come in and visit us. Now, Mary Lou Venuto, our receiver of taxes, unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but she asked me to announce that her office will be open at the same time, Saturday, September 29th, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. This is the last chance to pay your school taxes in the Marlboro and Valley Central School District. So her office will be open if you want to wait until the last day to pay your school taxes and you're in those two school districts, you can do it. My next announcement, one of the most frequent questions we get in my office is when is there a free clinic for rabies shots for dogs and cats? A lot of our people, especially senior citizens, sometimes their pet is the only friend they have. So they want their pet to remain healthy, but they can't afford the cost of veterinarian services. There's going to be a free rabies clinic. It's open to all residents of Orange County. It's going to be in Washingtonville. It's going to be on Saturday, October 13th, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. You have to register in advance if anyone's interested. I've got flyers that have the proper phone number and all the information available. So if you know anyone who's in need of a free rabies clinic, tell them. October 13th, call my office for any information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zreski. And with that, we'll open it up to the floor for comments. If you have any comments or questions on anything, we'll try to do our best to answer those questions. Just come to the microphone, give us your name and address, and we'll give it our best shot.
Good evening, Bill Corbin, 3 Fleetwood Drive, Town of Newburgh. A couple of questions relative to the presentation by Conklin this evening. I made a comment to them as they were exiting that I would certainly appreciate, and I think most American manufacturers would appreciate if there was some preference given to American-made solar panels.
I believe in all the NYSERDA contracts, including the one we have here, there is that.
Okay, well, they're saying they're sourcing from Germany, China, so I think we should, I would recommend the board specifically recommend that preference be given. Nothing else, at least disclosure of how much American-made product is included in the installation. The other question, turning to the adult business zoning law, when will those materials be available for public review, either via the web or here at Town Hall?
Forwarded them to the town clerk's office this afternoon, so presumably they're already in.
no, they're already in.
They're already out.
They are on the web already? Okay, good, thank you very much. And then relative to backhoe purchase, same general question. Again, we've got American manufacturers, I think we should be trying to source all of those types of heavy equipment to American manufacturers as well, just as a policy statement. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, any other comments from board members? I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, and, motion to adjourn.
Your motion was made and seconded to adjourn at 8:23 p.m. Mr. Woolsey,
Yes.
Mr. Diaquadio,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Bello,
Yes.
Mr. Booth.
Yes,
Thank you,